As I mentioned earlier, Army Regulation 600-82 authorizes the Secretary of the Army to designate certain individuals as distinguished and honorary members of the regiment. To date, 269 16th Infantry Regiment soldiers have been designated as distinguished members of the regiment. This list includes 10 of our 11 Medal of Honor recipients. It also includes General Bruce Palmer, former Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, General James Woolnow, former CG of Continental Army Command, Lieutenant General Ron Watts, former CG of the 1st Infantry Division and 7th Corps, Major General Al Smith, former Commander of CG of the 1st Infantry Division and an honorary colonel of the regiment, and a host of other generals and sergeants major. Many of our DMORs make up a who's who of the regiment in World War II, including Corporal Samuel J. Fuller, the producer and director of the movie The Big Red One, as well as Captain Joe Dawson. Our 33 honorary members of the regiment include Medal of Honor recipient Major Roger Donlin, Lieutenant General James Hollingsworth, Major General Albert Malloy, and Mr. Damien Georges, the Mayor of Flayville, France. As you can see, our honorees join a very distinguished group of Rangers who have made their mark not only on the regiment, but in their own way on the U.S. Army and other important institutions. We will now invest 6 DMORs and 2 HMORs. The first DMOR to be invested today is Mr. Philip G. Arnold. Phil served with C Company, 1st Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment from September 1969 to March of 1970 in Vietnam. He later served with the Americal Division from March to April 1970, when he was wounded in action and returned home. Phil's awards include the Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, and several others. Mr. Arnold was honorably discharged at Fort Lewis at the end of his enlistment in September of 1970. After his military service, Mr. Arnold assumed the Hospital Service Coordinator position for the Disabled American Veterans at Lebanon, Pennsylvania VA Center, where he was responsible for coordinating transportation for veteran medical appointments. The duties include recruiting and interviewing volunteer drivers for the DAV vans, raising funds for purchasing DAV vans, and scheduling rides for veterans. He started with 1 van in 2003 and ended with 16 vans in 2007. In 2007, Philip was appointed as the adjutant for the Disabled American Veterans in the state of Pennsylvania. Mr. Arnold is a member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Disabled American Veterans, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and the American Legion. He is also currently a member of the Society of the 1st Infantry Division. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished member, Philip Arnold.
We all have our stories. Mine's simple. People often, I served during a time when there was not a draft. I didn't have to go into service. I was exempt. I volunteered for a draft. I describe it as I met so many other fellow soldiers when I was in the service. It was a term I used to describe why many of us served. It was simple patriotism. It was nothing more than that. We felt that we were asked to do something for our country, and we did it. I honor the young members of the military now. I know, and we all know what you're going through. and we appreciate your sacrifices. Thank you very much.
Our next DMOR is Mr. Stephen J. Bernacki. Stephen served with Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment from June 1969 to March 1970 in Vietnam. He participated in a number of major actions northwest of Saigon towards the Cambodia border, most notably a battle near An Loc in August 1969. He later served with Delta Company, 1st Battalion, 8th Cavalry, 1st Cavalry Division from March to June of 1970. With that battalion, Steve participated in the invasion of Cambodia. Steve's awards include the Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Bronze Star Medal with V Device and Oak Leaf Cluster, Army Commendation Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, and several other awards. After he departed service, Steve married Kathleen in 1973. He earned an associate's degree from Luzerne Community College and entered an apprentice program at Iron Workers Local 489 in Scranton, Pennsylvania. From 1982 to 1996, he was a journeyman iron worker. From 1995 to present, he has managed and operated a family business, Kelsey's Restaurant in Ashley, Pennsylvania. Mr. Bernacki is a member of the VFW, American Legion, and the American Legion Riders Motorcycle Club, a past president, Northeast Pennsylvania Veterans Alliance, past president, YMC Board of Directors for Hanover, Pennsylvania area, and past president and current member of the Ashley Business Association. He is also currently a member of the 16th Infantry Regiment Association and Bandito Charlie Association. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished member, Stephen Bernacki.
I can't really say much more than Comrade Phil just said. One thing I would like to thank, one person, is my wife, Katie. I know a lot of years when I came home weren't the best, but we managed to get through it, and I just know that today these folks coming home are going to experience a lot, and I know that the government will take care of them and they'll be fine. And over the past, since I was awarded the Bronze Star, I met an awful lot of the young troops, and believe me, we're in great hands. Thank you very much.
The third DMOR to be invested today is Mr. Otis Lee Flake. Otis originally enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in 1960. He served in numerous overseas locations to include Okinawa, Thailand, Japan, and the Philippines between 1962 and 1963, and was discharged from the Marines in 1964. Otis re-enlisted in 1965, this time in the United States Army. Otis went to Vietnam, where he served with Charlie Company, 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry until 1966. While in Vietnam, Mr. Flake participated in numerous major operations to include Operations Bushmaster, Mastiff, and the Battle of Courtney Plantation. After his service in Vietnam, Otis went to Germany, where he served until honorably discharged in 1968. His military awards consist of the Combat Infantryman's Badge, Purple Heart Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, and several other medals. Since leaving military service, Otis has served as the Department Commander, Jewish War Veterans, Commander, Department of California Military Order of the Purple Heart, Commander, Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 225, and as Adjutant, National Homeless Chairman, and ROTC Chairman for the Department of California Jewish War Veterans. He currently serves as the Vice President for the West Los Angeles Veterans Home Support Foundation. He is a life member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Disabled American Veterans, and Jewish War Veterans. Otis is additionally a member of the Vietnam Veterans of America, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and the American Legion. Mr. Flake is also a member of the Society of the 1st Infantry Division and a life member of the 16th Infantry Regiment Association. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished member, Otis Lee Flake.
I'd like to thank Johnny for showing up. Here's my platoon leader. And Ken Alderson, my ex-help. I know I've seen him in here. Yeah. Oh, there he is. And Phil and Frenchie. And thanks all of you for showing up. And many other friends that I've got for the years. And Bob Crow's back there. I'm sorry about that. Many years that I've been coming, and maybe late in the game, but we finally did it. Thanks, Bill.
Our next DMOR is Sergeant First Class Stephen Gutsky. Sergeant First Class Gutsky has a long history with the 1st Infantry Division. He entered service in the winter of 1996 and was initially assigned to the 1st Battalion, 18th Infantry in Schweinfurt, Germany. He deployed with the 18th to Bosnia as part of I-4 and later deployed again to Macedonia in support of the United Nations peacekeeping mission Able Sentry. Sergeant First Class Gutsky was assigned to Charlie Company 1st Battalion, 16th Infantry in September 2005, where he was further assigned as a Bradley Section Sergeant. During this assignment, Sergeant First Class Gutsky was selected to attend Bradley Master Gunner School. Soon after, he deployed with 116 Infantry to support Operation Iraqi Freedom 2006-2007. During the deployment, Sergeant First Class Gutsky led over 100 missions in Saladin Province, as well as several emergency resupply convoys. He was given responsibility for providing security to the 1st Marine Engineer Battalion during berm building operations during his tour. After an assignment elsewhere, Sergeant First Class Gutsky returned to the 16th Infantry Regiment in May of 2011, this time as a platoon sergeant with Alpha Company, 2nd Battalion. Here he trained his men for another deployment, and though later assigned from Alpha to Echo Company, where he assumed the role of a senior advisor for the Train and Ready Platoon, which was charged with securing the provincial reconstruction team, the company's forward deployed location. Sergeant First Class Gutsky's awards and decorations include the Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Bronze Star Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, the Army Commendation Medal with 2 Oak Leaf Clusters, and several others. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished member of the regiment, Sergeant First Class Stephen Gutsky.
I'm really speechless. I've been thinking about this for a long time, what to say when I get up here. For those of you that know me, I can be long-winded. But, you know, I think Colonel K kind of hit it on the head when I was young. Come to events and seeing the veterans going, man, someday I want to be like those guys. And today here I stand amongst, the greatest regiment in the Army. I've been lucky enough to serve with both battalions, and I've had the greatest leadership that anybody can ask for, from Major Scott Wentz, Sergeant Major Johnson, Captain Husky, Colonel Lambert. I've kind of had a big array of the leadership that's in this room. But I'd really like to thank Ron McAdaz, Ken Kostich, and Al Herrera, who can't be here today, for their guidance and support during our missions overseas and just at home, and camaraderie and friendship. Every time I was able to see those guys sit down, drink a few beers, and have a good meal. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The next DMOR to be invested is Captain Donald E. Husky. Captain Husky was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment in November 2011 and was immediately assigned as the battalion's Assistant Operations Officer. He served in this capacity for a period of 12 months He deployed with 216 to eastern Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom for a 9-month period between May 2012 and February 2013. During this time, he took command of Alpha Company 216 on November 2012. He led the company through its last 3.5 months of the deployment and prepared it for redeployment and reintegration. Additionally, he planned the company's training in preparation to execute future combat and stability operations. His awards include the Bronze Star Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, the Army Commendation Medal, the Afghanistan Campaign Medal, and several other awards, to include the Valorous Unit Award for service with the 2nd Battalion, 508th Infantry Regiment, 2009-2010. Captain Husky is a lifetime member of the National Infantry Association, the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment Association, and the 82nd Airborne Division Association. He is a member of the Society of the 1st Infantry Division and a life member of the 16th Infantry Regiment. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished member, Captain Donald E. Husky.
I have a couple things to say. It's a true honor to be here with everyone and with such legendary veterans. I wanted to thank Colonel Castles, Sergeant Major Herrera, and Ken Cossage for nominating me and supporting my nomination and your mentorship. I'd also like to thank Lieutenant Colonel Clay, Sergeant Major Arlington, Mr. Humphreys, Mr. Hall, and countless other veterans that your continued service to the regiment has been an inspiration to me, and I hope to follow your example. I'm not sure if I really deserve such a distinction. I know there are men here and overseas in Africa right now who are far greater than me that are probably more deserving, but I look forward to working with all of you and getting to know all of you, and I just hope that I can earn this distinction through my continued service with the regiment. Thank you very much.
Our next DMOR is Mr. Gerald D. Cabler. Gerald was a rifleman with the 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantryman, who served with the battalion from November 1968 to November 1969 in Vietnam. Gerald was inducted into the United States Army on 28 June 1968. After basic training in AIT at Fort Benning, Georgia, he was ordered to Vietnam, where he was assigned to Bravo Company, 2nd Battalion, on 14 November 1968. Over the next 12 months, he participated in numerous operations to include Lam Son 68, Pho and Thang, and the Battle of Chan Lu Village. Did I get that right, veterans?
Close enough.
Okay. Throughout his period working with the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, Mr. Cabler participated in numerous sweeps and raids in the ambushes, resulting in a significant amount of combat action. For his services in Vietnam, he was awarded the Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Bronze Star, the Air Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, and several other service and campaign awards. After his release from the United States Army in June of 1970, he worked for FMC Corporation and for many years constructed wellheads for oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, and finally in Indonesia, where he worked on rigs off the coast of every country in Southeast Asia except for Vietnam. Since 1994, he has been a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and joined the 16th Infantry Regiment Association in 2007. He assists in the Midland-Odessa area VFW post with their annual Midland-Odessa Wounded Warrior Project Hunt for severely wounded service personnel. Gerald has also donated a significant amount of money to the association's Wounded Warrior program and annual Christmas fund. Mr. Cabler is also a member of the Society of the 1st Infantry Division and a life member of the 16th Infantry Regiment Association. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished member Gerald Cabler.
I'm not much on giving speech.
I've got my lieutenant back here that I served with in Vietnam, and Top, they're sitting back there in the back where they can keep me from running out of here. And Don for nominating me. I appreciate that, and this is a great honor for me. And I want to thank everybody that's in the Army, that's serving, and past in the Army. God bless you.
The first honorary member of the regiment to be invested today is Mrs. Susan Kostic. Over the past several years, because of her husband's involvement with the battalions of the 16th Infantry, Susan has become aware of the needs of deployed military and their families and children. She has spent many hours arranging and managing toy drives for Christmas and the collection of gently recycled clothing for families and children of the 16th Infantry battalions, especially the 1st Battalion, 16th Regiment. She has personally sought out, arranged for, collected, cleaned, inspected, folded, and packed each article of clothing to ensure that clothing that was sent of the highest quality of cleanliness. Many of the articles of clothing collected were brand new, still having the price tags on them. Over the years, she has personally packed hundreds of boxes of toys, clothing, books, child and toddler car seats, and shipped them to the 1st Battalion Family Readiness Group leaders. While troops were deployed, she has also been instrumental in organizing care package drives for battalion soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. In addition to this charitable work, Susan helped the organizers of a fledgling charitable group, Waiting Warriors, founded on Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona. She assisted in defining and forming fundraising and donation activities, soliciting donations, and advising on securing 501c3 status. This organization was founded to help the families and deployed service members at both Davis-Monthan Air Force Base and Fort Huachuca Army Post in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Susan Kostic.
First of all, thank you for this incredible honor. I humbly stand in the presence of what I believe are giants, all heroes in my heart. To our veterans who served and fought so that I could enjoy the freedoms that I do today, and to the heroes, our present-day heroes, our active military, who continue to sacrifice along with your families so that my sons can enjoy the same freedoms that I do. I thank you. I really don't believe that I did anything special. I was raised in a military family, or as my husband says, a paramilitary family, because my dad was a mayor, of course. One thing Dad taught us is you always give back, and he did until his last days. And you always thank those that you appreciate. And what I'm most excited about today is the opportunity to publicly say thank you to all of you. Thank you from a very grateful citizen. Thank you from a grateful wife, and most of all, thank you from a grateful mother.
Our final honorary member of the regiment to be invested today is Airman First Class William H. Pitzenbarger. Accepting the honor today for the Pitzenbarger family is Lieutenant Colonel Retired Harold Salem and Association Vice President Phil Hall.
On April 11th, 1966, Charlie Company 216 was surrounded by a frontline Viet Cong Battalion D-800 reinforced and possibly with North Vietnamese regulars. This was a frontline unit. It wasn't farmers with pitchforks, and we walked into what was constantly a well set up kill sack or horseshoe perimeter. As the afternoon went on, we called artillery in, and they closed the noose around us. We had several KIAs and a bunch of wounded people. The area was so dense in jungle that they couldn't get Army dust-offs in there. The Benoit Eagles, Hal Salem, Carl King, and their bunch came in and dropped hoist down and started lifting our guys out. Like Hal said, on the second round in, Airman Pitzenberger came down on a jungle penetrator of his own volition, volunteered to come down there and started rendering aid and helping people get the guys into the litter that our guys weren't really familiar with. Ken Alderson was running the extraction. Johnny Lips was my platoon leader. As the day went on, the perimeter got overrun twice, and Hal, like he said, motioned for Bill Pittsburgh to get on the litter and come up out of there, and he waved him off. At the end of the battle, went on for hours, 1,145 rounds of high explosive artillery shells were fired in support of that battle. The Army's record differs from mine because there's a lot of support people, medics and combat engineers, interpreters, FO and his radioman. But of all the guys on the ground, the casualties exceeded 80%. The next morning, when rescue people got to us, they sadly came in and found that Pitts had been killed. If you'll go up by the division headquarters and, excuse me. Okay. And look at the monument for the Medal of Honor winners for the 1st Division, you'll find Sergeant James Robinson and Airman Pitzenberger.
Made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. May you continue to surround their families in your infinite peace and love. In your almighty name I pray. Amen. Amen. Congratulations.